Hey YouTube folks, welcome to another video. And in today's video, I'm going to bring you with a match that was at least surprising, yes, where the world champion Magnus Carlsen tried to pull off nothing less than the Scholar's Mate against an international master named Shansidim Vokadovita. This game here is a very famous one, and it was played at the 2018 World Rapid Championship. And it brings a very, very interesting ending, which I'm sure will surprise all of you. I had already recorded this game here for the channel back then, right? When it happened, though, the channel was just starting out. The audio and video quality was still a bit lower. And since this game is really, really interesting, it deserves a makeover. I'll add a link to my first recording of the game in the description for anyone interested in seeing how much the quality could improve. So without further ado, let's get straight to today's big game now. So guys, here we are. And playing white was Magnus Carlsen against Shansidim Vokadovita. Magnus opens with e4 the king's pawn, and after e5, he immediately makes a bold move. He expects black to play knight to f6, right? Allowing queen to take on f7 would immediately end the game. But, of course, that's a very famous checkmate. Very well known. Shansidim knows it. He definitely knew it for sure. He played g6 here, blocking the queen from f7. So Magnus insists by playing queen to f3. He threatens Scholar's Mate again, so I played queen to e7 to defend. Now white faces some issues. Why? The queen is already developed, but the queen ends up blocking the natural squares for the other pieces to come out. So what happened? Magnus is going to have to do some maneuvering here, reorganize the team, right? So he played here. With knight to e2 play continued. Knight to f6, d3 bishop to g7, knight b to c3 and h6 protecting g5. Interesting, right? This move by Shansidim. And then knight to d5 Magnus. He's fighting for the initiative in this game. Knight to d5 is a move that tries to achieve this theme, right? It's attacking the queen and knight. Black exchanged knights, and Magnus recaptured with the pawn. A very natural move would be to take with the bishop here, right? So you don't break the structure. But Magnus wants to keep the initiative, so he attacks the knight, forcing it to move. That's a defensive move for black, right? So Magnus went for a very interesting strategic idea of blockade here. He played d6 in this position, so he attacked the queen. Of course, black has to capture, but can't capture with the queen, right? Because if you capture with the queen, then you're allowing a bishop takes on f7 here, and the whole theme comes back again with the bishop and the queen attacking the f7 square. Shansidim recaptures with the pawn, and Magnus now plays bishop to d5. And notice that he creates a blockade here on these pawns, making it much, much harder for the bishop on c8 to develop. So it's a strategic blockade. Here, it's actually an interesting move played by Magnus. And in this position, Shansidim makes a very logical move. He moves the knight back to c6 to bring it back into the game, as it wasn't effective here. So bishop to d2 developing, queen to f6 proposing a queen exchange, right? The black pieces. At this moment, there's a pawn advantage in an interesting position here, right? At some point, if you move this bishop from here, these pawns can start advancing too, and the center becomes stronger. Magnus said, no, I don't want to trade queens. He played queen to e4 black castled, white castled, and knight to e7 attacking the bishop in this position. Magnus played knight to c3, an interesting move. If you take the knight goes to d5, attacking the queen and becoming very active. Queen to f5 was played. Here comes Shansidim trying to trade queens again. Magnus said no and played queen to b4, threatening d6. The bishop here remains defended by the knight on c3, and the game is, at the very least, tense. Knight takes d5 was played, and now a knight to e7 theme appears, which would be a terrible fork, obviously winning the black queen. Shansidim, very sharp, played king to h7 to escape the fork threat. Here the move is knight to c7. With this move, it looks like Magnus will regain his pawn. He was down a pawn, right? He played d6, attacking the rook on a8 and threatening the d6 pawn. So here, rook to b8 was played. Queen takes on d6, and now b6 was played here by black. Which is a mistake, huh? It's a mistake. There's a very, very interesting tactical continuation here. It was a fast game, right? But Magnus ended up missing this continuation, where he would have been better in this position. The move Magnus played here was f3. Okay, but the move that gives white an advantage in this position would be knight to e8 before f3, right? Knight to e8. So here I'm sure Magnus saw the move knight to e8, right? Because it attacks the rook on b8. What Magnus might have missed in the faster game was it the rook to a8 continuation. From this move, maybe he didn't see that there's a very, very interesting continuation here. For white with the capture of the bishop on g7, and then king takes on g7. There would be the explosive and devastating bishop takes on h6. Now, white wins an exchange and gains a much better position, right? Because if you take the bishop here, then there's queen takes on f8, and there aren't many options for black in this case, right? If you just move the king, you lose immediately, right? There are mating threats. So, I believe that Magnus maybe didn't see the continuation. After rook to a8, bishop takes knight on g7, right? But then, what did he do? He played here in this position, a different move. He played f3, of course. Black then connected the rooks with bishop to b7-1. Rook defends the other, and now that's no longer possible. And from here, get your hearts ready because the game takes a surprising turn, to say the least. So, Magnus moved the rook from a to the e file, then rook to c8 was played, a move that brings a very direct threat. And Magnus played bishop to c3 here, which is a mistake, a serious mistake, because it allows the continuation, which was played by Shansadim. If you want to find out what move black plays that gives a big advantage, stay tuned. Now, pause the video and try to find it, guys, because it's worth it. I hope you found it. I'm going to make the move, okay? Shansadim just played a bomb move against the world champion, bishop to f8. Notice that this move attacks the queen, and the queen is absolutely trapped. The queen is defending the knight here, right? And the queen can't get out. Badly, or this piece will fall. So, for example, a move that wasn't played in the game. A more direct line would be queen takes e5. After trading queens, bishop takes e5. Black could play d6, attacking both the bishop and the knight while defending the knight. And white loses a piece in this line and will end up technically losing the game, right? Being down a piece. So Magnus didn't go for this line, he tried a different desperate line. He played knight to b5 here, which brings the idea of trying to recover some material, right? After the bishop takes the queen, Magnus loses his queen, and knight takes d6 creates a fork. So Chansadinha plays queen to e6 knight, takes c8, rook takes c8, and now white is down a rook. Exactly, since these two rooks equal the queen, bishops are matched, and black has an extra rook. That's crazy. Magnus Carlsen tries to pull off the scholar's mate and ends up down a rook here. Unbelievable. The game continued with rook takes e5. Magnus will now try to complicate things, win pawns, and create threats. Queen to d6 was played, and the game continues with doubling on the file, trying to counterattack, maybe invade the 7th rank. But Chansadinha, here he makes a move. A very interesting blocking strategy, which is terrible. With the bishop on d5, white's goal is simple. Move it to e6 to end white's initiative. That's a serious problem. Magnus will try to create another counterplay. He plays a4, then bishop to e6, blocking everything with a5. The game continues with the capture of this pawn and then king to f1. And, of course, this pawn will fall at some point, but white is in trouble here. Rook to c5 was played, an unfortunate move for white, as it threatens to simplify the position. Magnus traded queenside rooks and played rook to a1, aiming for the a5 pawn while down a rook. d5 was played. The game continues. Rook takes a5 queen to c7. Then, after rook to a4 queen, takes h2 as the key move. And now the game starts to take a very, very critical turn for white's position. Here, rook takes a7 wins a pawn, queen to h1, then king to f2. Chansadinha here finds a continuation that will force the world champion to throw in the towel with a very strong move d4. This move here forces Magnus Carlsen to resign, and that's exactly what he does. Magnus Carlsen resigned in this position. You might wonder, Raphael Chess, why did the black pieces give up a pawn, and why did Magnus resign? Well, the main point is that if bishop takes on d4, black can continue here with queen to h4. Which is check, right? It's attacking this bishop, so if the king defends by moving to e3, there's a strong move. Queen to e1. And now, white is going to be checkmated by force here, okay? they would have to play king f4 and g5. That's not check. That's mate with tomatoes. So in this position, after queen h4, the best move is king e2. And now the bishop here is going to fall. The rook is under threat, and white is absolutely lost here. So Magnus decided not to continue this game. It was a bomb. Yes, there was a lot of news about this game where Magnus tried to use this fool's mate, right? Against the international master who has way fewer points than him, right? And it became very famous because of that. And even more surprising, because Magnus ended up losing this match after trying to deliver the checkmate. Pastor, if you didn't know this match, leave a comment about what you thought of this unbelievable attempt by Magnus to deliver this mate against Shansadim. I hope you enjoyed this match. If you liked it, don't forget to hit the like button and see you in the next videos, guys. Thanks.